Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Health Matters 9:30 live in our ITV studios in Johannesburg, and that's where we want you to interact with us in the show of diabetes. It's Diabetes Wellness Month weekday for the rest of this month of November, but it's been diabetics have really been affected during lockdown and COVID-19. So now let's look at Zaid Ishmael, life coach and author on our Wellness Weekly. Zaid Ishmael, our aspiring author, mental health advocate, dad, as well as a life coach with his necessary expertise. Please do follow his website, Zaid Ishmael, and he's there to help you out. But firstly, Zaid, we're talking about Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah for having me back on your show.
Only a pleasure. Very excited to have you back. So we understand that, you know, the diabetes patients have suffered quite intensely during COVID-19. I've even come across those that said, no, I'm not going to hospital even for my follow-up. So we understand, you know, these chronic illnesses, also commonly referred to as lifestyle diseases, as we know, it is a focus on how you are living and what you are doing to yourself and your body. Now, lifestyle diseases include those like heart disease, cancer, hypertension, and references to lifestyle diseases is often, you know, just brushed aside. Can you share some thoughts on this?
Yeah, the lifestyle disease issue is quite a serious one because we've kind of grown accustomed to referring to it as chronic illnesses, and chronic illnesses automatically we think of chronic medication to respond to it, right? But lifestyle diseases, by definition, means that there's something not quite healthy about the way we're leading our life. And it's not about the physical things we do, it's about how we're approaching life, how we experiencing it, how we take the lessons from it, or how we perceive what it has to offer us. And when we start recognizing that's what lifestyle is actually all about, it's not about what we have and what we show. Suddenly we get a very different perspective of what a lifestyle disease might be about, as opposed to thinking of it as a chronic illness.
Yeah, and we don't quite realize that this disease, diabetes, is a lifestyle disease, but it's also a chronic illness when you get to the different types. So I know in our last conversation, we spoke about maintaining a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, soul, all of that. How does that relate to, you know, looking after yourself and the importance of diabetes?
It's, in fact, when something gets to the point of being what we just said now is a chronic illness or a lifestyle disease, and in fact, just to clarify, it's a common interuse of the terms, right? Where we swap around chronic illness for lifestyle disease, but we settle on chronic illness because chronic illness is something that seems a bit more real and more tangible and something that we can actually respond to because we know there's a whole support structure around it. But it is a lifestyle disease. Chronic illness, lifestyle disease, one and the same thing. And how this relates to the mind, body, spirit kind of balance that everyone is striving for is that after a sustained period of duress, emotional duress usually, we eventually create such a level of stress in our bodies that our bodies eventually have to start responding in stronger ways to let us know that we're in an unhealthy space, emotionally and spiritually. And this talks back to the point I made last time about our bodies being a signaling system. So if we recognize these signals early on, we'll prevent it from going full-blown into a chronic illness or a lifestyle disease. If we don't pay attention to it and we assume that the body is doing what the body is doing because it has its own issues and our emotional health is not going to affect that directly because it's completely separate. The moment we separate those two, what we do is we actually demand that the body fends for itself without us giving it the space and the peace and the balance and the harmony that it needs to be able to operate in a healthy way.
So we understand with chronic illnesses often comes the idea of having to be on chronic medication, although this does fall into the category of lifestyle disease when you talk of the different types of diabetes. But understanding that people would often then go to the chronic medication for the lifestyle disease instead of actually making the necessary lifestyle changes. What's happening here?
That's the fascinating part, the morbidly fascinating part almost, because when we have a lifestyle disease and we go for medication, what the medication does is it actually looks to shut down those signaling systems that are actually telling us that we need to make changes. So it's if we wanted to use an example, a very simple example, it's like having a problem with your car and you see this indicator come on your dashboard to say that there's a problem with the engine or something, right? Just as an example. And instead of fixing what's wrong with the engine, you go and you disconnect the signal that's telling you that there's a problem with the engine. And then we think that the problem is gone because the signal doesn't come up anymore, right? And that's what happens when we medicate without considering what is the underlying cause of the illness. And the underlying cause is not another physical ailment, it's the emotional duress that we place ourselves under. And I say we place ourselves under it because that emotional duress is something that we experience because of what we choose to take from our life experiences and what we believe is possible.
Sorry, just how important is it when you're making those lifestyle changes and you're on the chronic medication, but you also decide that, listen, I need to make the necessary lifestyle changes. How does that complement your life?
For starters, the chronic medication should always be considered as an intervention and interim measure. It should never be considered as a long-term solution, right? Because long-term, what you're doing is you're then changing the way your body has to operate because you're introducing all of these foreign things into it to shift the way it actually talks to you. As far as the lifestyle changes are concerned, again, I need to re-emphasize the fact that lifestyle changes is not about whether you're chasing money or you're chasing a career or you're chasing something else. That is a symptom of what it is that you need. And if you don't recognize what it is that you need emotionally, spiritually, what's lacking, what your insecurities are, what your vulnerabilities are, and you don't deal with that in a healthy way, then all you're doing is you're distracting yourself from the real issue because you're afraid of exposing your vulnerability, which means that you feel like it's going to be a weakness.
Yeah.
And it's this fear of being exposed, this fear of our shame becoming visible, this fear of being needy and dependent on others. It's that creates this internal tension that eventually results in these lifestyle diseases that we see.
And lastly, Zaid, I just want you to talk quickly on talk therapy and how this affects those that with chronic illnesses in combination of understanding that it will improve your lifestyle and, you know, how it actually will improve you because many are skeptical about the idea.
Talk therapy is very important. Think about it this way. If we don't have anyone to talk to about something that is troubling us, we end up internalizing it to the point where it becomes toxic to us because we start getting headaches, we start feeling stomach aches, all sorts of things that happen to us because of the physical duress we place ourselves under from having to, like we often say, bottle it up, right? So talk therapy, if it's with someone that is skilled in being able to guide you through the process, is very beneficial because what it does is it leads towards understanding what it is that we're experiencing that making us feel at odds with life, basically. So if you speak to any healthcare practitioner across the board, they'll all tell you that the one thing that affects health the most is unhealthy stress. And unhealthy stress is when we don't deal well with the pressures of life, right? So if unhealthy stress, and stress being the operative word, is what causes illness in the body more than anything else around, then it makes sense that our perception of what it is that we're dealing with in life is most important. And our perception is not going to change based on medication.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to change our perception about life. But talking about it and understanding the cause and effect of our value system, our beliefs, our needs, our support structure, what we take from it, our cultural heritage, all those influences that shape our view of the world, talking about it to someone who understands how that all comes together and shapes our emotional experience of life, that leads to understanding, and that understanding is what removes the underlying stress.
Let us realize the importance of talk therapy with that. With Zaid Ismail, shukran so much for your time. Unfortunately, we just have to cut you there. Our time has run up. We appreciate your time. We will chat again. All the best. Assalamu alaikum to you. That was all the time we had for in our wellness insert, and Zaid Ismail having some pertinent information to say. Please connect with him via his website.